So hello everyone, welcome to today's UCalgary Faculty of Arts edition. My name is Aaron So, my pronouns are he and him, and I am a third year psychology student, and I'll be your event facilitator for today. So during today's webinar, you'll get to learn more about the Faculty of Arts, have some questions answered, and hear from our panelists consisting of our current art students, our associate dean, and our arts advisors. And as a note, the chat feature will be enabled later on in the webinar, so you'll definitely have time to put your comments in the chat, so don't you worry. So before we do start our presentation, I did want to start with a territorial acknowledgement, and I did have a video to share with everyone to kind of talk about why territorial acknowledgements are important. So just as a reminder for all panelists to please mute your mics for this section.
Geographic locations are what we call natural laws. Our laws come from the land, and our practices of granting rights and privileges is a process we were born with that ties us to this land. The mother's body was the first environment that we experienced. And when it's time for you to leave, you go to the mother environment, which is the mother's body, and you ask the environment if you can leave. And a process happens where the mother grants you the privilege to leave. So you go into another environment. That's why we talk about Mother Earth. When we accept other people coming into our territory, there's a process that happens, a smudge, a practice of gathering of our people, and that practice is where we bring in permission to come into your territory. Those are systems that actually came from the mother's body to the environment that we live in, and we use those systems to greet other people as they come into our territory.
I'll pull back up the slides. There we go. Yeah, so thank you very much, Red Crowshoe, the former chief of the Pegane First Nations. Just a reminder for panelists to turn your mics back on. So with our territorial acknowledgements, we would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy comprising of the Siksika, Pegane, and Gaina First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. So for our agenda today, we have a message from our lovely dean. We'll then introduce our panelists, talk about the student experience, have a question and answer period, and then we'll have a few slides to give you information as to how to contact us. So with that, I have the dean's message. And again, panelists, please make sure to mute your mics just to make sure that everyone can hear the video.
Hi, I'm Richard Sigurdsson, Dean of the Faculty of Arts here at the University of Calgary. It's so exciting to have you considering joining us in our faculty. We're large, we're diverse, we have so many options for you to choose from, but whatever you do, whether it's psychology or dance, you will be challenged to think critically, to think creatively, to engage with other students, to engage with the community, to engage with tough ideas. And you'll learn about global citizenship, diversity, inclusion. You'll learn skills that will allow you to go ahead in this world doing whatever it is that you want to do. And while you're here at the University of Calgary, I know that you will have a fulfilling, meaningful experience in the Faculty of Arts. I'm so looking forward to seeing you as a student here in our wonderful faculty at our terrific university. Go Dinos!
So thank you, Dr. Sigurdsson, for your introduction. And speaking of introductions, it's time for the panel discussion portion of our event. So before we move on to that, we just have some introductions. So panelists, please introduce yourself with your pronouns, your degree program if applicable, and your association with the faculty. And then once you're done your introductions, just pass the ball to another panelist. And I'll pass the ball first to Dr. Dawn Johnston.
Thanks, Aaron. Can everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up? Great. So I'm Dr. Johnston. I am the Associate Dean of Teaching, Learning, and Student Engagement in the Faculty of Arts, and I'm super excited to welcome you all here today. My home department where I teach is the Department of Communication, Media, and Film. And as a fun aside, I'm also a two-time alumni of the University of Calgary, having done my master's and my PhD right here at U of C. And I'm going to pass things over. Next person on my screen.
Oh. So some technical difficulties. So we'll definitely get Dawn back onto our room. I'll first then pass the ball over to Justin G.
Hi everyone, my name is Justin Goda. Pronouns are he/him. I'm a Faculty of Arts representative here with the Students' Union at the University of Calgary. What the Students' Union is basically the big representation body for students to all levels of government, as well as all of our faculty members and university administrators. My home department in the Faculty of Arts is the Department of Economics. I'm currently completing my third year in that, and I'm loving it so far.
And Justin, who do you want to pass the ball to next?
I'll pass it over to Noah next.
All right. Hi, I'm Noah. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the current department representative for the Department of Classics and Religion and the incoming VP academic for the Faculty of Arts Students Association, which we adoringly call FASA. FASA is essentially a sub-union for art students, so we're your organizing body at a smaller level. My home department, as I implied, is the Department of Classics and Religion, and I major in ancient medieval history, which I love, and I'm about to go into my final year. And I'm going to pass things to Justin P.
Hi, so I'm Justin Pike. My pronouns are he and him. I am a program advisor in the Arts Student Center, and I also am an alumni from the University of Calgary. Both my undergraduate and my master's degree were received from the University of Calgary. Faculty of Arts, actually.
Nice. Well, thank you everyone for your introductions, and we definitely have some questions for the panelists. So this first question is for Justin G and Noah, where the question is just what does a typical day look like for you? And that kind of depends on whether you want to talk about like pre-COVID or just kind of the present online learning environment, just so incoming students have an idea as to what to expect. So I can definitely pass it over to either Noah or Justin G to start it off.
I can start. I'll go with my in-person, like what I do when I'm in person on a daily basis. So I don't like having morning courses. So the earliest I'll try to come to campus for is 11. That's what my compromise with myself. Usually if I think I have at least 5 or 10 minutes, we have a little kind of cafe in the ground floor of the social science building, which is the arts building. And I go there, these things, I'm going to tell everyone, it was currently 400 people here, so hopefully we don't sell out when we get back in person. There's this thing called Spinach Bistro. It's this puff pastry thing with spinach and cheese, and I get one of those almost every single day on campus. They're my favorite things ever. They're probably not that good, but I trick myself into thinking they're good. And so I eat that, and I go to class. Usually I have about an hour or two break in between there. So I'll see my friends. We'll usually walk around together, maybe go to Mac Hall and get OPA, because the OPA there it's different. I don't know how to explain it. It's better than other OPAs. And then I'll usually have 2 more classes of my day if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then I'm involved in clubs on campus. So after class, I'm usually around on campus in my department's lounge. We have the best lounge. We have the comfiest couches and like the biggest windows. Sometimes I bring my friends there who are in different departments. I'm like, oh my God, why don't more people come here? It's because we don't tell anyone, but we have the comfiest lounge ever. And so I usually stay in the classics lounge for I want to say 3 hours before I'm ready to wrap it up, go home, or I'll go to Kensington and I'll do homework at Higher Ground, and then I'll stay there until they close. And that's usually my day, more in person.
Oh, Justin G, you're muted.
I already have my audio on. Whoops.
There we go.
I'll go for a typical online day of classes for me. Much like Noah, I don't like waking up early for classes, so I try to get my classes as late in the day as possible. Sometimes that's not the case though, but thankfully because we're online, I can stay asleep up until the very last minute and roll out of bed and just hop on my computer. So that's usually what I'll do is I'll usually wake up about 10 minutes before my first morning class and hop in all tiredly and sluggishly. And then my typical day usually just ranges from 10-minute intervals in between classes or 15-minute intervals in between classes where I'll usually go and make myself a coffee, grab some food or something like that in between classes and hop into the next Zoom lecture I got. All ultimately depends as well if you're asynchronous or synchronous. Thankfully, most of my classes were synchronous, which I prefer. So it was really a nice way to keep myself accountable and actually going to class and sort of still having that feeling that you're going to campus sort of and going to class. So that's something I really enjoyed. I usually have a 1 to 2 hour break in between classes around lunch. So I'll usually drive around my neighborhood or grab some food, takeout, stuff like that. And then as soon as all my classes are done is usually when I'll buckle down and start to study for my midterms, any assignments I got and stuff like that. And then once I'm done, I usually kick back and relax for the rest of the evening and wait for the next day of online classes to resume.
Nice. Thank you, Noah, and thank you, Justin G. And then just kind of with my student experience, just kind of when things were in person, I'd wake up like at around 6, and then just get ready and then take the train and commuting. Because who remembers commuting these days now with things online? But before in person, I would spend around an hour just commuting to just one way to the university, getting there early just to kind of prep, get ready, go to my classes. And because I like each semester my schedule is different. I can't really tell you all kind of like, hey, like I have a 2 hour break here or like an hour break here. It really does depend on kind of how your schedule is set up. But usually there is always a 10 to 15 minute break in between your classes. So you're able to kind of go like walk around and just kind of go from one part of the campus to the other. But what I will say is that now with things online, that commute is gone. So I can definitely sleep in a lot longer than before. And because switching classes is just with the click of a mouse, I just kind of switch Zoom links and then I'm in the specific lectures that I need to. Take notes, paying attention, reviewing things as per usual. Then the evening, I would just kind of wind down, disconnect from my computer and just spend time with family. And just kind of speaking of transitions and speaking of just kind of getting used to the university, another question I have for Noah and Justin G are just for incoming students to know, what resources would you recommend incoming students access and why?
I'd definitely say the Student Success Center. I reached out to them before I even came onto the university campus after I initially just accepted my offer. And they got me set up with everything I needed to know on how to succeed at the University of Calgary, and I'm really grateful for that. So there's a lot of great programs that they offer, like peer-assisted study sessions, a lot of workshops, and quiet study spaces as well too. And they also got me hooked up with student accessibility services for exam accommodations. So that was something I had in high school. So if you had that in high school or you're looking for accommodations coming into university, this is a great opportunity to get extra time on exams or a quiet study space out of the lecture hall for your exams too. That's something that's really enabled me to succeed.
I think one of the most underrated resources in university is actually your own undergraduate program directors in your own department. I send so many panic emails to my UPD, and like an angel, she answers me within the day and like clears things up. And for me, that's been the biggest lifesaver. You have all this help right at home in your own department, and they know all of your professors already, and they know all the details of your degree, and that's the best thing ever.
Mm-hmm. And then for me, there's quite a few resources that I can think of. But like I'll say this office. I would recommend the leadership and student engagement office. I obviously maybe in the winter semester after you've kind of transitioned and getting used to kind of how things are in university. But if you are wanting to get involved in just kind of the university and seeing kind of what opportunities are out there for involvement, the leadership and student engagement office is a great place to connect with people who like are excited about leadership and student experience. So that's a place to check out. But then just kind of the other resource I definitely recommend is student wellness services. So that's just a office service, a service that is operating within an office setting. There's kind of different resources that you can provide, that you can access, like certain workshops on time management, stress management, and also just being able to connect with counselors if you're wanting to discuss about certain things that are happening in your life. So those are just a snapshot of kind of all the resources that's are on campus. There's a lot more, but those are some that we wanted to recommend for you all as incoming students. And I'm sorry, my voice is a little bit cracky right now, but one question I have for the entire panel is, what place on campus would you recommend incoming students visit when things go back in person? Whether that's like a hidden gem or just like a general space that people may or may not know about, or just something that you recommend people should go to. That's the question I have for the panel.
Can I jump in, Aaron, while you're sneezing? Yeah, I mean, I've got a kind of 1-2 punch here, and it's really close together, so that's pretty handy. I definitely want everybody to be stopping into the Arts Student Center. That is going to be your sort of advising home, where you're going to get to meet all of your program advisors, where you could learn about co-op programs and other kinds of degree enhancement opportunities. And it's a great, friendly sort of one-stop shop, where you'll really have the chance to figure out the resources that are available to you and get pointed in the right direction if you're just not sure where to go next. Right across the hall from there is the Art Student Lounge. And that's kind of an awesome gathering place for students in the Faculty of Arts. It got the most beautiful renovation very shortly before we all had to go home. So I'm trusting that it's still in awesome condition, and lots of comfy furniture and super cool lighting, and a microwave, as I recall. Just a great spot for lots of students will hang out there between classes. There's a little breakout space to do some group meetings. Lots of events are held there. If you hang around long enough on any given day, there's bound to be somebody delivering pizza at some stage. So definitely those are the places that I would suggest you check out.
I'll jump in next, and I'll also say, Dawn, is that the hallway right outside the Faculty of Arts Students Lounge is getting a nice renovation thanks to the Quality Money program. So should see some more spading and more space to study there. But a place I'd recommend to hop over to is definitely Mac Hall. The Students' Union at the University of Calgary actually runs and operates Mac Hall. So it's in the hands of students, and we provide a lot of, that's where the main food court is. There's also lots of businesses, programs, and services that you can access there too. And the one spot I'd recommend you to hop into in Mac Hall is definitely the Den. There's lots of great deals for foods and great place to hang out with your fellow students after class. It's a restaurant type area with a bar as well. So it's a great place to kick back and relax after a stressful day of classes.
I think my spot that's a must-see on campus is the Atrium, and I'm glad no one else said it. I was very worried someone was going to get to it before me. It's really great if you're someone who does not enjoy looking outside and just seeing the snow all the time all year. The Atrium's the best getaway. I think I desperately try to find a table in there every time I go because I just want to spend time in there and work. It's so beautiful, and it's definitely one of the must-see locations on campus.
I guess piggybacking off Mac Hall, specifically my favorite place to eat in Mac Hall is Bake Chef. I'm in no way endorsed by Bake Chef, but it's awesome. Vietnamese subs, that kind of thing. They're great.
I'm just a hard +1 for Bake Chef here. It may be the thing that I've missed most, other than my coworkers, in the last 13 months that I've been home.
I was like, everyone can see my facial reactions. Where it's like, yeah, I was like, we're not sponsored by Bake Chef, but based on our reviews, like that's the place that we would recommend. And I think for me, probably the place that I'd recommend everyone go to. I'd say there's two of my favorite spots. One of them is the Taylor Family Digital Library. That's a place where you can access like the Student Success Center, and there's like some study spaces on the fourth, fifth, and sixth floors where those ones are just quiet. So those levels are supposed to be just quiet, mainly for studying. Whereas on the second and third floor, there's kind of more of the ability to socialize with people. So it's a definitely great space to access on campus. And then the other one is just kind of just as you leave the TFDL, there's like the TFDL quad, but there's like a little, I think a man-made like pond there where sometimes you get to see some ducks in there just kind of roaming around. And you get to be able to have some greenery and kind of just like among cement as well. So it's a great place for me. I usually hang out there just to kind of hear birds and just kind of see people walking along campus, going to their classes and such. But yeah, so those are some places to keep in mind when things go back on campus. But there's definitely a whole lot more places for you all to explore. But those are just some of the highlights that we wanted to share. And then one question I have for everyone on the panel, where for Justin, G, and Noah, the question is, what advice do you wish you were given as you started in your program? And then for Don and Justin P, kind of the similar vein, what advice would you give to incoming students?
I can go. I'm always kind of excited when I hear this question because my first year I actually didn't start my program. I was at a different university and I transferred over to University of Calgary. So I always say whenever I'm asked this question that the biggest piece of advice I wish I was given is that you need to be willing to be flexible, because you can think you're going to do one thing and then you'll take something you're crazy passionate about. You're like, oh my God, this is what I need to major in. So don't come in and just think you have to stick to what you've declared as your major. Like, take all these options, discover these things that are fun and that you love too. Like, don't be afraid to try something.
Yeah, I'll bounce off what Noah said earlier, is use your undergraduate program advisor a lot. That's where I found the most help I've gotten with trying to find what to do with my degree and what courses I should take within my degree. They're always available, I find, and they're always such a great help and resource, especially during the times where the Art Student Center gets a bit busy when classes are starting to pick up. So those are also a great option for you to answer any questions you have about your program. I'd also highly recommend U of C Notify Me. It's this I think it's a student-run application where you can type in what class you want to be in, and then they'll send you, and if it's a full class, you can type it in, and then they'll send you a notification when a seat for that class opens up. So it's really great, and you don't have to refresh your student center or anything on your my.ucalgary. And just a great opportunity to find the class that you want to get into, and then you'll be notified when the seat opens up for it. So that's something I definitely recommend.
I can jump in here, I guess, with, sorry, Justin, I leaned in faster than you did. And it's all about who leans in on webinar jams fast enough. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard for me as like an associate dean and a professor not to give you 10 pieces of advice instead of one. But if I had to find kind of one umbrella piece, it would be, don't be afraid to ask for help. And whether that's, talking to your profs and saying, I was really struggling with one of the concepts you were talking about in lecture today, or going to your TA and saying, I'm struggling with this reading. Can you give me a few minutes to talk me through some of these ideas? Whether it's going to a program advisor or staff in your department to be able to say, I'm not sure where to go or what to do. Can somebody give me a hand? If it's going to the Student Success Center or the Student Wellness Center. Basically, the campus is kind of filled with people who want to make sure that you do well and that you feel supported. if I could, we used to have, when orientation was in person, we would have these great big buttons that said "Ask Me," and those were one of my favorite things, because you could walk around campus and know that anybody who was wearing one of those buttons would be happy to help you, even if it's not their area. So when you get to campus, or when you get to virtual campus, when you start your classes, make sure that you kind of treat everybody as though they're wearing one of those Ask Me buttons, so that you know that even if you're not asking the right person, they're going to make sure that they get you to the right person.
Yeah, that was kind of related to what I was going to say as well, is that it is so crucial to always ask for help. Particularly proactively, like if you don't know what to do, to reach out, because it's usually easier to solve a problem before it's a huge problem than trying to react to it. Another, I guess, a very, very general tip is read course outlines. That's going to be like, I'll throw in the one piece of real academic information, but it seems self-evident, but a lot of people won't. And there's tons of information in there, like the office hours. So if you need to ask for help, it will tell you how to get in contact with the instructor or the TAs or whoever else. It'll lay out everything that you need for the course, the expectations for the course, everything like that. They're absolutely indispensable.
I'll jump in there too to say that that there's no surer way to get that distinctive raised professorial eyebrow than to ask your prof a question that can be answered literally on the front page of your course outline. So definitely good advice, Justin.
Yeah, and bear in mind, incoming students, there's memes on that. Like if you search up like online of professors and course syllabus questions, like there are actual memes created for that. So I was like, as a third year student, I totally forgot about the importance of course outlines, because it's become habit for me to always check, because there's kind of the exam dates, like what's like your entire schedule for the entire semester is on there, like what you'll be studying, what topics you'll be doing. So yes, it's like, thank you, Justin P, for reminding me about course outlines. And I guess for me as well, one thing that I would say about university, and this has taken a while for me to learn, is that it's a process. Like it's, as kind of what Noah said, where you have to be flexible. Because for me, like I'll share like briefly about my story, where I technically started my first year in biological sciences, and it was great. Like I did fine. I enjoyed it, but I took a psych course, and I was like, oh, what is this? What are these things that I'm learning about? And that eventually led me to transfer into the current degree I'm in, which is psychology. So really it is having an idea of kind of what you want to do, but also being willing to engage in different opportunities that you encounter and just being able to explore. Because I'd say with university, it's, yes, you're here for education, but also it's a great way for you to step outside your comfort zone and reach out to professors and TAs. And it's a great time of learning for kind of everyone as well. So that's something that's like I would share. And one more question I have on the vein of kind of advice is kind of like and this is for all the panelists, like what would you say is like the greatest strength of the Faculty of Arts at the University of Calgary?
I guess I can start. So, and it's not necessarily specific to the University of Calgary, but what I always love about the Faculty of Arts is that you're in an environment, in a faculty that is exceptionally diverse. You have everything from musicians to economists to psychologists, all these people under one roof. And you get to take, in most arts programs, you have a lot of space to take options, and you can pull from all sorts of different subject areas. And I mean, we've already brushed up against this already, but it's a huge opportunity to just kind of learn that, you know, in this big world of ours, there's a bajillion different things that people can do, and perspectives. You know, two different disciplines can look at the same thing in a completely different way. And I think that's just a great strength.
I'm going to jump in and build off what Justin said, because the diversity of our student body is also my favorite part of being in a faculty of arts. And I love those moments where you see sort of, a dance student and an economics student and a poly student and a classics student, like having a conversation together, and you just think, like, what on earth are they talking about? Like, I know how different those programs are, and it's just so cool that I find that the students in the Faculty of Arts are often there not just because of the thing they want to study, but because they want to be surrounded by people who are studying very different things. And I really think that's kind of one of the strengths, is that our students are interested in other areas. They're interested in learning how someone from a different disciplinary perspective or a different program of study would tackle the same questions or would look at kind of a major contemporary issue. So that's one of my favorite things. I'll also say that I think more than anything else, the student body in the Faculty of Arts stands out to me as being exceptionally caring towards one another. We've, between our SU arts reps who are always, advocating for our students, and FASA, who are like providing these incredible regular opportunities for students to interact and get support. I really feel like our students are taking care of each other in a way that makes me as a faculty member and a member of the Dean's Office really, really proud, because I just think it's something remarkable and something that is a real feature of the Faculty of Arts.
Yeah, just to kind of build on everything that's being said, I'd say that probably one of my most favorite things that comes with my degree is how interdisciplinary it is. So my major is ancient and medieval history, and the options for my degree are within the Department of History, Department of Archaeology, Department of Philosophy. I could take courses from so many different departments. Also, I could take courses from the School of Languages, Literature, and Culture, because that fits within the vein of what I do, because I really focus on medieval history, but my home department is classics and religion. So I think it's so incredible that I'm able to experiment and learn all these different things and bring it back to my major. And that's been an amazing experience for me.
I'll bounce off what Dawn said there, but just as my experience as a student representative for Faculty of Arts students, I'd say the greatest strength of the faculty is how student-focused and student-centered the faculty is. Me and Dawn work a lot together, and that's thanks for how student-centered the faculty is. They always have a student-first perspective, I like to say, and it always feels like they're acting in the best interest of the students. And when I talk to sometimes the other reps, it doesn't seem that way. It's just like, oh, why aren't you guys doing this? And I think the Faculty of Arts just really loves its students, and they love to see them succeed and love to see them have an exceptional time on campus. So the greatest strength of the faculty is definitely their student-centered perspective.
Yeah, so thank you all for sharing. And just even for me as a student, one of the greatest strengths I would say, and it's already been mentioned, is just the diversity of people, where just the perspectives, to be able to, I love just conversations about just so many different topics. And I've talked to so many people where we talk, we're from different programs within the Faculty of Arts, and we just end up talking about so many different things with so many different perspectives. And then when I have to, unfortunately, say, sorry, I have to go to my class now, but I appreciate the conversation, I leave and I'm still processing the conversation as to kind of how, that's a whole new perspective that I was not aware about. So I would definitely say the greatest strength of Faculty of Arts is really just the connection. I'd say the connection, the community, and just the ability to have just so many different perspectives and housed under one big faculty on student campus. Oh wait, sorry, hold on. I think I'm receiving a message just from an important member of the Calgary community. So let's just listen in for just a quick second. Next, back on. So before we do head into the Q&A section, we just want to notify you all about upcoming registration workshops, and I'll pass it over to Justin P. for more information.
Yeah, so I'll be hosting some registration workshops. They're upcoming on April 23rd and April 30th. And the invite links will be placed in the chat a little later on here. You'll have to pre-register to attend. Basically, what we'll be doing is going over certain first-year registration basics. If you need very more specific assistance, we'll get to that in a little bit, but this is very general advice that will be very helpful for you in your first year registration.
Nice. So thank you, Justin P. And so now moving on to the question and answer time, where Carrie Jason will pull up questions to answer. And Carrie Jason is an academic program assistant who works at the Art Student Center, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions that we can. But again, just due to the high volume of people of 450, we may also miss your questions. However, we'll provide some contact information after a Q&A just so you're able to get some follow-up on your questions if they're not answered. And I believe that hopefully the chat is now enabled. But yeah, so Carrie, there we go.
Yes, all right. So we have one question already, so I'll just jump in here. I did post the registration workshop links in the chat already, so if students need that, that's great. So we do have a question about the workshop. Was it the same one that occurred yesterday?
Yes, so this is just two follow-on ones along that similar vein.
Okay. And how easy is it to change between degrees?
So depending on the degree program, if they are competitive or not, it can be varying. It is that the process itself is relatively straightforward, though. You won't need to reapply to the whole university or anything like that. There is a change of program process that does come up.
Okay. So I do have a student here, Dawn. Maybe you can speak to this. I've heard that in-person may happen, so maybe speak about course delivery coming up.
For sure. And I mean, the short answer is we don't have the answer yet. I think that a lot of us are super anxious to get back to campus. We will be following all public health and safety guidelines. And
so before we do head into the Q&A section, we just want to notify you all about upcoming registration workshops, and I'll pass it over to Justin P. for more information.
Yeah, so I'll be hosting some registration workshops. They're upcoming on April 23rd and April 30th. And the invite links will be placed in the chat a little later on here. You'll have to pre-register to attend. Basically what we'll be doing is going over certain first year registration basics. If you need very more specific assistance, we'll get to that in a little bit, but this is very general advice that will be very helpful for you in your first year registration.
Nice. So thank you, Justin P. And so now moving on to the question and answer time, where Carrie Jason will pull up questions to answer. And Carrie Jason is an academic program assistant who works at the Art Student Center, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions that we can. But again, just due to the high volume of people of 450, we may also miss your questions. However, we'll provide some contact information after a Q&A just so you're able to get some follow-up on your questions if they're not answered. And I believe that hopefully the chat is now enabled. But yeah, so Carrie, there we go.
Yes, all right. So we have one question already, so I'll just jump in here. I did post the registration workshop links in the chat already, so if students need that, that's great. So we do have a question about the workshop. Was it the same one that occurred yesterday?
Yes, so this is just two follow-on ones along that similar vein.
Okay. And how easy is it to change between degrees?
So depending on the degree program, if they are competitive or not, it can be varying. It is that the process itself is relatively straightforward, though. You won't need to reapply to the whole university or anything like that. There is a change of program process that does come up.
Okay. So I do have a student here, Dawn. Maybe you can speak to this. I've heard that in-person may happen, so maybe speak about course delivery coming up.
for sure. And I mean, the short answer is we don't have the answer yet. I think that a lot of us are super anxious to get back to campus. We will be following all public health and safety guidelines. And one of the beauties for you folks who are going to be joining us in the Faculty of Arts and at the University of Calgary next year is the fact that we've got a year of online delivery under our belts now and have worked out a lot of the kinks. So if we're not in a place where we're able to be sort of safely fully in person, then you know you're going to have a great student experience either way, whether your courses are online or in person, or some combination thereof, which is what our students have been experiencing this year. Stay tuned for more information on that. It will be communicated out to students as soon as it's been confirmed, and I know you're all waiting as anxiously as we are.
All right. So I did have a question here. Maybe the students can speak to this. Do you have any advice on making connections with peers in an online and or offline environment?
Yeah, so my number one suggestion, I keep seeing questions about clubs, so I can answer it both ways, is a lot of department clubs run their own Discords. For example, my department club, Agora, has our own Discord. I think there's about like maybe 40 or 50 of us on there. And it's a really great way that everyone within my department is able to keep in touch. We've been able to talk about our courses. We have a separate channel for talking about Latin and Greek for those of us who want to suffer. And it's just been a really great way to keep in touch. Also run events throughout the year.
Yeah, I'd say join clubs. Even though we were virtual this year, clubs are still up and running all year, albeit virtually, of course. So a lot of clubs have their own Discord servers. They're still holding awesome events and stuff like that. And we used to have this thing, well, we still do have this thing, but it would be in person in a normal year. It's called Clubs Week, where basically Mac Hall is full with all the clubs we have on campus. There's I think there's almost near 1,000 clubs on campus, I want to say, but there's a lot of clubs that you can join. So if you don't even know if the club doesn't exist that you want to join, you can even make one. But Clubs Week was something where you would go into Mac Hall and find all these different clubs, and it was a great opportunity to join a club. We still have that virtually this year, so it's through our online program called Clubs Hub, which you'll probably hear in orientation sessions if you do accept your offer to the University of Calgary. But still, clubs are up and running, and it's a great way to network, meet new friends, meet new peers, great opportunity to get involved on campus.
And I'll briefly add my response to that in regards to on like this virtual kind of engagement. For me, I usually private message like peers in the class. So for example, if I was in a breakout room with, let's say, like Justin G and Noah, for example, I would just private message them throughout the semester as well while lectures are happening. So like, hey, like, how are you doing? Like, how was that assignment for you? How was that exam? So that was just my way of adapting to just interacting with other peers in my class.
Great. So I do have a question about course delivery. So if a course is asynchronous, are lectures still live online or are the lectures pre-recorded?
Do you want me to jump into that one, Carrie?
Sure, or I'm sure one of the students can probably take that one as well. So whichever.
Sure, yeah. Asynchronous typically means that a lecture has been recorded so that you can watch it at a time that's convenient for you. So typically your professor will give you a window of time in which to watch it. So like, for example, if they want you to watch 3 short lectures in 1 week, then they'll post those lectures at the beginning of the week, and you can find a time during the week within your schedule to watch those lectures. If classes are synchronous, that means that it's essentially like an in-person meeting, except it's happening online. So there will be a specific time that your class is scheduled for. And if that's 10 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you'll log into probably Zoom and join with all the other people in your class and your professor for a live session where there might be some lecture, there might be some discussion, there could be some breakout rooms and other activities, but it's happening in real time. So that's sort of the difference. And I will say that some classes have been set up with a combination of those two things. So in some courses, professors have decided that they're going to record the lecture component of a course so that students can watch it on their own time or listen to, some profs do it as a podcast, can listen to it on their own time. But then one of the class sessions per week is live, or there's a live sort of tutorial or lab session where students have the opportunity to ask questions and interact with each other and participate in discussions around the course materials.
I'm not sure if anyone would know the answer to this question, but we'll try and put it out there. Are art students able to access the fitness center / gym?
Yes. Right now it's closed though, because of COVID, but hopefully when it opens, all University of Calgary students have access to that.
Great. So we're getting a lot of questions about, do we have early access to course registration? I don't know if you want me to respond to this one, but yes, okay, good. So yes, by attending the webinar, so make sure to stay all the way to the end, then you'll be able to get your early access to registration. So the registration dates for high school students incoming are normally May 5th to 7th, but by attending the webinar, you will get an earlier date, and that will be uploaded into your student center. That new date will come up as of April 26th, so it won't be immediately following, but it will be kind of within the next week here that you'll see that come up. So I have a question here of how much of campus is open to the public?
I'm going to take a guess at what that means, and I mean in normal times where we are sort of fully open and in person, campus is kind of a center for the city in a lot of senses. And you have folks who are alumni or community members who are using lots of parts of campus a lot of the times. You'll often see, like during the summer, campus is overrun with small kids participating in camp. We have lots of like sports and drama and dance activities that are happening, sort of on campus with people who are not faculty or students or staff of campus. So it really is an important space within the city of Calgary where a lot of folks spend time. And for those of you who've grown up in Calgary, you're probably familiar with the U of C campus and have had a chance to visit more than occasionally. In terms of what's open right now, it kind of varies. Campus itself is open, and but most of us are working remotely. And if you're trying to get in touch with folks, then definitely reaching out by email is probably the best first stop. If you have particular questions about who's around and what's open at any given time. As I'm sure you all know, the same way that I do this year, it can change from day to day or week to week in terms of what we're allowed to be doing with COVID restrictions. So it's always worth checking by email first.
I do have a question. I believe this is for Aaron. What do you plan to do after your psychology degree?
Great question. Still in the works. There's options, I will say, just with the psychology degree. Like for me, I'm entertaining the idea of clinical psychology or counseling psychology, potentially social work. So there's a lot of options for me right now on kind of where I want to go. Can't really answer your question, but generally, clinical, counseling, or social work. Still very, very broad. And I still haven't been able to kind of refine and kind of pinpoint where I specifically want to go. But again, that kind of goes back to kind of our responses in the student experience. So it's being flexible and just being willing to kind of experience a lot of different things and just decide kind of like, hey, like what works best for you in like the specific area and point of your life.
Great. I'm just having some questions about minors here. So how do you add a minor?
So for adding a minor, it will be a change of program. You don't need to worry about it immediately. It will open up in October, and then it's usually added for the next academic year, so fall 2022. If you for sure know that's the minor you want to do, what you can consider, like I want to do a minor in history, for example. When you look at the first year degree guide and you see the courses that you need to take for your major, and they have like open options spaces, you can just maybe take a history course or two in the open options.
Great, thanks, Justin. So I have a question here for Noah. Can you tell us more about success services? I assume they mean the Student Success Service.
Sure. Student Success Services are there to help you with like every step of your degree. Like it can be kind of daunting. And so if you don't want to be alone, like that's a really good resource and a place to go.
Great. Maybe we can find the link and put it in the chat here for students just to refer to if they're curious about the range of services they offer, because they do have a number of different ways to support students. That would be great.
Hey, Carrie, I happened to see a couple of questions pop up as co-op, and I'm not sure, they look like they might have been private messages to me. So do you mind if I just pop in and say a few things about co-op?
No, that'd be great if you could do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw a couple of people ask about, is co-op available for arts programs, and are there lots of opportunities? And co-op is available for almost all of our arts programs right now, which is really exciting for us. I noticed someone specifically asked about psychology, and that this was the first year that co-op became available for psychology students, and that was like a giant expansion of our co-op program, which was a really exciting moment for us. But co-op is a fantastic opportunity to really sort of enhance your degree by adding in work integrated learning opportunities throughout your program. So you'll take 3 or 4 4-month paid work terms during your degree. You apply in your second year and then start your work terms in your third year, and you alternate between work terms and academic terms most of the time, which is a really nice opportunity to get a feel for possible career paths that might interest you, sometimes to get a feel for career paths that won't interest you. But it's you come out of your degree with between 12 and 16 months of paid work experience in your field. And that's a really extraordinary thing to have on your resume when you are a brand new grad. So definitely something that I would encourage for folks. Some folks have asked about, are there many opportunities for work terms? And there are lots of jobs that get posted, but we also really encourage our co-op students to be sort of innovative and entrepreneurial and looking for opportunities themselves. So looking for chances to find work placements that may not have directly advertised through the university, but would qualify for a co-op work term. And our co-op coordinator and advisor will be happy to work with students to help prepare them for that, and to sort of answer any questions they might have about whether a job opportunity might qualify as a co-op term.
Great, thanks, Dawn. I do have a question here. Can a student take some science classes alongside their arts degree classes?
So they can, and in fact, for the vast majority of Bachelor of Arts programs, you need to actually take at least 2 science courses to fulfill the science breadth requirement. And some arts programs may specifically require certain courses from the Faculty of Science, like for economics, for example, they require math and statistics. One thing that I'll comment generally on, and this will be relevant for anyone who wants to take courses that aren't necessarily within their major, particularly for high demand programs, is there are things called reserve caps. I'll get into more detail about this with the registration workshop. But in short, it means that sometimes if the courses are very high demand, you might not be able to register in them because the seats are reserved for students in that need that course specifically. And I saw another comment in there where someone was like, what does it mean if there's a wait list and the course is still open? That is almost certainly a case where there are seats reserved for specific students. And the reason why there's a wait list is that people are waiting for the reserve caps to lift at a given date so that they can register even though they aren't part of the target demographic for the reserve caps on the course.
And then, Carrie, just as a time check, we have time for one more question.
Oh, goodness, so much pressure. Is there any good places to take a nap on campus?
We all apparently take a nap on campus. I was going to say my department's lounge. Again, our lounge is a well-kept secret. There are literally people who aren't even in my department who come there with blankets and nap there. I have friends who actually keep a blanket in their backpack specifically to sleep in the lounge. That's my favorite nap spot.
Yeah, I'd say most of the department lounges and department clubs, they all have their own offices, and they're mostly really souped up, and they got nice couches and stuff like that. So join your department club and you'll have access to a nice low couch you can nap on.
And then my recommendation, potentially TFDL, like there's potentially, like it's like 4th, 5th, and 6th floors, where it's quiet. Sometimes I have taken naps, like a power nap because it's been a week. Yeah, I would say that's the place, but I'll say just please make sure to maintain the best that you can, some sleep routine, just so that you're able to stay functioning throughout the semester.
Hey, Aaron, it's also that might be the singular best thing about learning from home over the last year is that built-in, meant for napping nap space, right practically in your classroom if you're doing classes from your bedroom.
Yeah, so that ends our Q&A section, and just kind of on the next slide is just a place where you can definitely connect with us, and I'll just pass it over to Justin P. Just to clarify just all the things on this slide.
Yes, so if you have very specific questions about your program, you can reach out to the advisors. I mean, I'm one of them, but there are several of us in the Arts Student Center. One thing I do want to emphasize is if your only question is, what do I take in the first year? Check the UCalgary first year degree guide first, because if you are an incoming high school student, that's the answer, basically. So you don't necessarily need to wait for us to get back to you. If you look at that and you're still confused, or if you have other questions that are quite specific, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to us at all.